feel the speed, man. I'm on a motorcycle. All right, let's have some fun with her, shall we? Letting TC do its thing. Let's hit this one at 40. It's so ludicrously buttery smooth. It's a very playful bike, though. Alrighty, folks. This is it. This is the one that may change my mind on BMWs. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob. Today, we are doing a ride-in review of the BMW S1000XR in this beautiful triple black, midnight black edition. This motorcycle comes to me courtesy of Eurocycle. This bike was actually ridden by Chris over at Eurocycle himself, all the way here to Austin from Las Vegas. He did a boys trip with a bunch of old farts on big adventure bikes and touring bikes. They all had multi-stratas, but he was the only one on this S1000XR. And he told me that this is his very favorite motorcycle of the moment. So do me a favor, check out Eurocycle down in the description below. They are a proud sponsor and supporter of the channel. And the only reason we have some of the cool stuff we have is because of them. So what the hell is this motorcycle? S1000XR. Well, the 1000 will cue you in on the fact that this is powered by a 999cc inline-4 derived from the BMW S1000RR Superbike. Now, it's a little bit different. It's detuned, doesn't have the shift cams, couple things on it that make it a little bit more tame. We're still working with 165 horsepower at 11,000 RPM and 84 foot-pounds of torque at 9,400 or thereabouts. The thing about this motorcycle is it kind of picks up where the old multi-stratas left off in that it has 17-inch wheels, sport rubber, but it's on stilts. So you'll see that it's kind of tall. It's a bit of a tall thing, kind of a long suspension travel, but still a touring bike that you can really rack down miles on. That's really the name of the game when it comes to this S1000XR. It's a sport bike that has serious performance chops. You can lean it over on the side of the tire, have a great time with it, but it's still very comfortable and plenty practical to use. You see here all this storage. This is BMW hard cases over here, triple, and a little cute little butt sash over here. Because Chris obviously did ride this motorcycle. I think that's what, a 1,200 mile trip or so from Las Vegas to Austin. I think he did it in 2 days, 3 days, something like that. So we're going to swing a leg over this machine, do a thorough ride and review. As you guys can tell, it is quite rainy today. It is very wet, so if the camera is not so great, I apologize. If I'm not pushing super hard, I also apologize. It is quite wet, but we have traction control, nice all-weather tire, and, a decent rider at the helm. So, this motorcycle, you swing a leg over it. First thing I want to tell you about it is a low seat height version of this bike. So, Chris purchased this bike because the man is all torso, no legs. You can kind of think of him as a banana with a couple toothpicks sticking out. I'm sorry, Chris, I had to do you dirty like that. In reality, he's just sized a little bit differently, and he wanted to get a bike that was very easy to flat-foot. So this bike, obviously super easy to flat-foot because it is the lower, shorter version of the bike. But the coolest thing about this bike is it has like this scoop in the seat right here. I'll actually show you guys this really quick. I'll dismount and show you the scoop. It has like this perfect little like butt scoop, and you just kind of sit in that pocket, and it's actually really nice. It's a really nice seat, really nice pocket little scoop there for your butt. So swing a leg back over it. Very neutral seating position. This bike has keyless start, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but that's okay. They press the on button here, and the industry's finest TFT comes to life, operating at like 120 FPS. This one has the optional nav system, BMW branded on it too, so this is the fully loaded kit and caboodle one. But the screen is super cool, man. This is my favorite thing on these BMWs, is how nice and crisp and smooth the screens are. Nobody does them quite like this one, I gotta admit. So, firing the beast up to life, we'll go ahead and put it into neutral. Buttery smooth, baby. If you think Japanese inline 4s are buttery smooth, the BMW inline 4s are like something else. And it's one of the gripes that I have with a lot of BMWs is they're just a little too smooth. But we'll still get a little sound clip of the bad boy here. It's actually so smooth and refined and the throttle is so electronic that it starts to feel almost video game like, and that's going to be a theme we're going to see in today's video. But let's go ahead and take off with the BMW S1000XR, baby. And I got to drop my visor because, boy almighty, there's a lot of water out today. So we're going to hang it right here. We're going to do a couple slow speed maneuvers, talk through the bike and how it feels when you do that sort of thing with it. Go over here in this little section, and because it has really nice ample handlebars, you'll see here I can crank it all the way over, do a U-turn, absolutely no problem at all. This motorcycle is incredibly simple and easy to ride. You see here, we go to the right, very neutral seating position, you can carve as tight of a line as you want, very confidence inspiring to ride. As you'll see here, we'll crank over on the counterbalance side of the bike, super tight little U-turn, no problem. Of all the bikes that I've ridden, you know, these kind of touring bikes, these big tall motorcycles, this kind of wide handlebar setup, it lends itself very, very well for slow speed maneuvers, and it belies this motorcycle's near 500-pound curb weight. BMW claims a 498-pound wet and ready to ride curb weight on this bad boy, which is decent for this category. It's not a light, nimble little sport bike, but for a big bad touring bike that has all the bells and whistles, this is pretty lightweight. Now you'll see here as I come to a stop, this little H pops up here. That's because this motorcycle actually has hill hold assist. So that's a really cool feature. It feels a little strange whenever you feel the rear brake kind of pull away from you, but eventually you start feeling it to be pretty natural. We're going to go ahead and light this motorcycle up here a little bit. First gear, open the taps up. Had to shut it down because of traffic. 165 horsepower out of this motorcycle, and it feels potent, but the thing about it that starts to get a little weird is because it's this tall sport touring thing with the windshield and all that good stuff, which I'll show you guys here. The windshield's actually a two-stage situation. You can go ahead and flick it down to go up like that, or flick it down to go down, just like that. You can just get the two stages here. I kind of prefer Triumph system where you grab it and you pull it to a couple different motions, because windshields and me, man, we don't really get along really well. I've never really found a windshield setup that I've really loved. They always seem to buffet wind in bizarre ways. And the biggest thing that this bike does is, although it is plenty potent and plenty fast, you can't feel the speed. Kind of has that Goldwing effect where you're just kind of going along and you see the number climb up on this beautiful TFT, but you don't really feel the speed, so to speak. You don't really feel like it's a super bike, and it doesn't really rev like one either. It kind of has like that Versus 1000, Ninja 1000 energy, but just a little bit more. And if I flip the windshield up right here, I just feel like I'm in this little pocket, and I don't really feel like I can go that fast with this thing. But that's okay. Obviously, this thing has a lot of power. It's not really designed to be a corner carving maniac of a bike. It's really designed for comfort, long distance touring with a healthy dash of sport. I view this motorcycle really as a 50-50 sport touring bike, whereas you can spend half your time touring and half your time carving up twisties and doing those sorts of things. Let's talk through the electronics package a little bit, because that is a big feature on this motorcycle. You've got cruise control, you've got dynamic suspension, you've got linked brakes, you've got heated grips that actually features this aftermarket heat troller, because BMW's heated grips are known for being so freaking hot. They are hot, and so I think that's why Chris has this little dial here to bring that back with a simple little potentiometer right there. So all the tech and all the farkles you could want, BMW has thrown at this thing. You've got wheelie control, traction control, obviously ABS that you can modulate and change. I think one thing that I really want to do with this motorcycle is bungee cord my race suit to the back of it and do a bit of a sport touring track day. I think it'd be fun to ride about 200 miles up north to Eagles Canyon, get a little hotel there, wake up, do a track day, and ride back. Do a little 500-mile sport track day touring thing. I think that would be a great use case for this bike. I'm going to appear towards this light. I'm going to head over here to the left and get a bit of a brake check in the rain. Pretty good. Good feel. I believe these are BMW branded calipers from some brand. I can't remember the brand of the calipers that are on this thing. Or did they switch to Brembos? Let's take a look. Can we see? I cannot see from here. I got way too many fairings. Nope, they're Brembos. Okay. They look like the M50 calipers and not the Stylemas, so I don't think you're getting super top-notch brakes, but plenty good enough. We'll get back on the power here, letting TC do its thing. Plenty of poke and grunt, but again, you don't feel the speed. I want to feel the speed, man. I'm on a motorcycle. But it's still fun. It's still plenty fun to squeeze and poke that inline four. And it's got a lot of juice up at the top. BMW claims that they did a great amount of work, dialing this thing in for the mid-range, but I really find this motorcycle to have a lot of that top-end grunt and power that you'd find in a traditional sport bike, because this thing's obviously derived from the S1000XR. And that's where I think this thing kind of sets itself apart from stuff like the Multistrada and even the Versus 1000 and those sorts of bikes. You know, this is really based off of a superbike. Yes, the Multistrada features the V4 that you can kind of find in the Panigale V4, but it's so different in the Multistrada that I feel like it's kind of totally different. So suspension check right here. This is a very bumpy piece of pavement that I always check the bikes on, and this is working great. Despite having a sport-tuned suspension, man, it's really soaking it up quite well. You can probably hear in my voice that I'm not even that bothered by the vibrations back there. That was incredibly impressive what that thing just did. And again, name of the game, comfort, touring, but also sport. That's what this BMW does great. Now, one thing I wanted to point out too, as this car is going to turn right and then we'll be able to go a little bit. If I grab up a gear, second, third, fourth, no problem, quick shifter, but then also down 2 gears with the auto blip. So it's got BMW's, I think they call it what do they call it? Easy shift, connect shift? I don't know. Everybody calls it something different, but it's just a quick shifter up and an auto blip down. Works fantastic. Really positive feel on the lever, really good engagement, really tactile feel, but not too robotic. And that's what's been really nice about this XR that I've been riding. Let's see about a little speed bump here. That was nice. Very playful over the speed bump. Let's check on this one. Yeah, that does it pretty good. Let's hit this one at 40. All right, let's hit the next one. Okay, kind of feel that adventure part of the adventure sport thing that they call this bike. That's pretty cool. That's fun. So this motorcycle, like I said, derived from a superbike, has proper superbike stuff going on with it, and it's going to feature all the updates that come from the S1000XR for the newest generation. So BMW could have kind of phoned this thing in and just gave it a pretty simple little update technology-wise and a little facelift, but it's got a new frame. They call it the Flex Feel frame or something like that, so you get more feel out of the frame. Very BMW to have that on there. That's quite funny. And then also it's got the new electronics package from the S1000XR. It's got the new swing arm. Obviously the 999cc inline 4 is revised as well. I mean, this is a lot of new bike. You know, this is not just a little update on the old one. This is quite honestly a brand new motorcycle from the old XR, which a lot of people sang its praises on. People really enjoyed that XR. And it's a cool bike, and it fits really well for BMW's customer base and their lineup. This is a bike that works super, super well for the kind of long-distance dads and all those sorts of things. And you might say, okay, well, this bike looks incredible. It's like a Gucci version of a Versus 1000. So how much does it cost? Well, base price is about $16,400, I think, right around there. And then you can option it up to about $19,600. So you can throw a lot of farkles and a lot of dumb stuff on this bike. Now, this Tacoma's kind of getting it. You can throw a lot of forklifters and dumb stuff on this motorcycle and get the price up, but if you want to get it in for just the base and then get a couple bags on it or something, I think you could probably get this bike done out the door for about $18,500 if I were to guess, which is pretty good value for money, honestly, all things considered. When you consider that a multistrada, you're not getting that thing out the door for less than $28,000, no chance. You know, this is considerably less than a multistrada, and I think just as good. It kind of does the exact same thing that a multistrada does. It does the whole adventure sport thing. It looks dorky and dad-like. It's kind of like, well, what else do you really want, you know? This engine does have a lot more pizzazz than the old S1000 engine that I've tested before. Because the power's a little more peaky, you got to really kind of rev it to get to where all the juice is. And it kind of redlines a little lower. It invites you to kind of play up to the 8, 9, 10,000 RPM. You kind of want to get there with this motorcycle. You're like, oh, when am I going to be able to kind of squeeze it a little bit, you know? You got to work for it a little bit. But I just can't believe how vibration-free this motorcycle is. It's so ludicrously buttery smooth. All the control inputs feel like there's not even a motor turning. Where you will feel a motor turning, however, is on your left leg. There is quite a bit of heat coming off of this engine. And again, you know, it makes 165 horsepower, so more power, more heat. That's just the way it goes. You can't make a ton of power without producing a ton of heat. That's just the laws of physics in action, folks. So this motorcycle does feel a little hot when you're standing and waiting for a light to turn or something like that. I actually feel my leg kind of getting a little warm and toasty whenever I'm sitting at a light. Totally not a big deal. Motorcycle engines are warm. You will feel that while you ride, but this is workable, I would say. So getting into some tighter twisties here, we still have this Tacoma in front of us, unfortunately, but I will be able to feel this bike out a teensy bit. Not at race pace, obviously. Like I said, I want to do that track day situation with it. And the butt scoop really does not reward hanging off the bike at all. This motorcycle is supposed to be ridden, I think, in the classic adventure bike style, where you kind of just like keep your butt parked in the middle and just flow with it. Kind of just let it tip over, dip in. You got a lot of lean angle to play with. You can get this bike to really feel fun in that way. You don't really want to do the whole Marc Marquez proper GP bike hang-off thing with this. Doesn't really feel right. The ergonomics don't really lend itself to that. This Tacoma's kind of speeding just enough to where I can't really pass him safely. That's kind of annoying. We'll have to come back up the other way and see if we can have some fun. We're running a decent pace. It's kind of funny, we're just keeping up behind a pickup here, but yeah, I think overall the ergos don't really lend itself to be really kind of like, you know, in the pocket of the bike and tucked in and doing that whole silly thing. You'd feel a little silly doing that with this bike, but the feeling of getting on the brakes and then grabbing an auto blip down, very rewarding with this motorcycle. On-off throttle is really good on this bike. That's the first thing I look for when I ride a bike, is that clutch interaction, that throttle interaction, the brake interaction, because that's where you build confidence out of a bike, is knowing that you have front end feel, stopping power, and on-off for the throttle. And I gotta say, I really like the way this throttle's dialed in for a fully ride-by-wire system. One of the better ones that I've tested, honestly. I'm really, really liking this. This feels really good. Alright, we're going to go ahead and flip around up here to the right. Didn't want to follow that guy into the neighborhood. I'm going to lower the windshield so that I can feel a little bit more. Go ahead and very easily bang a U-turn right here. Check this out. Look how easy this bike is to ride. Look at this. You can go slow as you want, slow as you want, slow as you want. Slow it down, slow it down. Almost stall it. Bike's very stable, very predictable in slow speed maneuvers. Really like that. All right, let's have some fun with her, shall we? Running that street pace, watching our traffic, making sure nobody's coming. We're in third gear, but man, you can't properly feel the speed on this thing. It's so bizarre. All right, climbing up this hill a little bit. We're gonna stay in the pocket. We're gonna stay in the pocket like freaking ADV dad bike style. Feels a little awkward. Doesn't feel quite right, but we're trying to ride it the way that BMW intended it to be ridden. Hard on the brakes a little bit. Oh, let's see. It's interesting. It's rewarding. It's got that battleship feel to it that a lot of these big sport touring bikes do. And it's cool, you got the up and down quick shifter, so you just focus 100% on brake and throttle, which is really nice. Just pondering your lines, enjoying yourself, thinking about your 401k or whatever it is that BMW people do. Minding the gravel there in the middle of the road. Watching that guy cut into our line just a little bit, but we're on the inside. We're all good, baby. Fun bike. The fundamentals are sound, man. Really sound fundamentals. Grab it down into first, no problem. Working well for me. Working well on the Beamer here. I like that. Let's amp it up a little bit. Let's see if we got dry grip enough for a little power wheelie. Not quite. Now I would try a clutch up, but number one, I'm not that good at wheelies. I just started learning them a little bit better with the old Gixxer bra, which you guys have may seen. And number two, there's so many traction controls and weirdness on this bike that from what I've seen, from what I've tested, it doesn't let me really do clutch up wheelies unless I go into the settings and change everything and blah blah blah. But it does let me do power wheelies, which is interesting. So let's see if we can just get it to go in first gear on power. Didn't like that. It's a very playful bike though, which is not something I say about BMWs very often. So they're starting to improve, starting to adapt. And now we're stuck behind a hybrid minivan. Is there anything worse as a motorcyclist than being stuck behind a hybrid minivan? I think not. Can practice our complete ADV dad cornering abilities here. All right, at this point, I'm just kind of curious if it'll just. You can just give me a little bit of something, BMW. Yeah, see, that's TC kicking in. It won't let me do a second gear. It's just kind of sad. I don't feel like figuring it out, folks. I'm sorry. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a quick rip on the BMW S1000XR. What do I think of it? I think it's a pretty good bike, honestly. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's got a lot more pizzazz and fun and feel than other BMWs I've ridden. They've done a good job with the frame, feeling like it's giving you more feedback. It's still got that sterile, buttery, ultra smooth dad energy, but I've kind of come to appreciate that a little bit. I think in this package, in this category, the adventure sport touring thing, whatever you want to call it, it works really well, and it's really cool for that. Great range on the tank too. I forgot to mention that. About 180 to 200 miles of range on this bad boy, depending on how you're riding. That's pretty awesome. So, as evidenced by Chris from Eurocycle, you can clearly take this bad boy on a big long trip, and you're going to have a ton of fun doing it. So if you're looking for a Gucci, luxurious, and fun sport touring experience, this should definitely be top of the pile for you. If you have the coin, this will definitely reward you. I think if you're looking at something a little bit more budget, Ninja 1000XX, SX rather, Tracer 9 GT maybe, also a pretty decent fit. That one's coming in I think around $14K nowadays. So again, this one you can get for 16.4-ish base. Probably spec it up closer to 18, mid-18s, out the door close to 20 if we're going to be totally honest after tax, title, and license. So, you know, it's one of those things. But if you're interested in getting one of these bad boys, hit that link down below to Eurocycle. Check them out. I know they got them for sale. And thanks again to Chris for sending me this bike. It's been a ton of fun. And you guys let me know if you would like to see me do a sport touring track day with this thing. I think that could be a fun video concept. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.